Hello there, this is Cora from the Holler to the World, and I have been absent on here for a little bit, and I want to show you what I have been doing. Okay, so it'll take me a minute to get set up, but I have been making aprons for our church craft fair. And I will show you a few of them, and then my hopes are to help show you how it got to be. These are the ones I just finished today. They're little red ones with a moose and some little lace. I made 2 of those. There's several little Christmas ones, Christmas patterns. They're just your basic string, a little waistband and ties. Little Christmas ones. This is one of my favorites, a little moose. They are just at random, and they are totally Appalachian handcraft because there's no pattern. My mom used to make them, and she made a skirt similar to these out of feed sacks, but she always had aprons. This is a little fall print with a little pocket. I tried to make them a little bit different. I don't know if I have time to show you all of them, but I guess I could. This is a little gingham. So we're having a craft fair at our church on Saturday the 21st at Crossroads Christian Fellowship. And these will be for sale. I try to make them a little bit different, like they have a little different details on them. Some fall ones, and of course more Christmas. Here's another red one, another moose one. I got to figure out how to display them. Right now I'm just throwing them and they're going to be a mess, but another peppermint, another snowman, and this one I think is really cute, a little Santa Claus. I tried to make fall and a little bit Harvest Festival. That one has a little pocket. And something for everybody. Here's a little pumpkin-y. So after I show you this, I'm going to take you in and show you how I cut them out. And then I'm going to stop the video and show you the next phase. So it'll take me. This one has scripture on it, and it talks about God and Christ and the birth. This one I've had material for a long time, and it's a Thanksgiving pilgrim. So there's just all kinds of ideas you can do, and they take 1 yard of material per apron. I'll have to come back in and straighten all this mess up. There's another one like that. They're all a little bit similar and a little bit different. That's one of my favorites with the pigs and the chickens. And this is a one of a kind. It is a green. There's only one of them. And another little gingham. So, okay, we're going to go now, and I'm going to show you how I did this. My mom made them, and she made just with no pattern, just out of her head. And takes, like I said, 1 yard of material. And I just measure and cut. I want it to be 16 inches tall, like from the waist down to the hem. And I want the width to be 33 inches. And so here's what I'm doing. If I can show you. I hope this is going to turn out. Okay. So I take 1 yard of material. This is Nativity, which is so awesome. Mary and Joseph. I just got this the other day. So here's 1 yard of material, which usually is folded long ways, like this. When you get it at the, I get mine at Hobby Lobby or Walmart. It's usually folded like that. So I had them cut me 1 yard. Then when I bring it home, I fold it across. I want it to go the width, not the height. Or length, I guess you'd say. And so I cut it, make it even, lay it out. And I have to show you. This not going to have a pattern. It's in my head. But I get this as even as I can. I hope this works out, because I'm really not a complicated sewer. I'm not a seamstress. I just do hobbies. So what I do is I try to get it as smooth as I can, as even as I can. And I take my trusty tape measure, and I go, let me turn you a little bit that way. I go 33 inches. Okay. Hang on a second, I gotta get stick pins. I just try to make it, so far, I counted the others, and I think I have 31 of them for sale. We're raising money for missions to go to Honduras. That's why my logo is from the holler to the world, because I have been to Honduras. So I'm pinning this at 33 because that's how wide I want the apron to be. I'm going to gather it. So I do measure a little bit and then I guesstimate. Okay, so this is going to be 33 up here. I put in another pin to get 33. It doesn't have to be exact because it's going to be gathered. And all right, we'll take that off. And then what I do is I come down here like this, okay? And I put my length that I want up here. And this is why it's called primitive. Because I take my trusty bowl and I sit it right here to hold it down. I want to move you down here where you can see what I'm doing. Okay. I hope that turns out. So I'm gonna go find where I put my pins. Wherever in the world I put my pins. Isn't that something? I lost my pins. Here they are. Okay, so I come to the edge. Now don't laugh because I told you it's primitive. I go to the edge of my counter and drop off the 33 inches that I want. This remaining part is what I want. And the leftover piece, this will become the waistband and the ties. So here we go. We are going to cut so accurately and primitively my apron. Take my pin out. So I use this edge because it's something to press against to make it straight. So I cut it to the desired length that I wanted, which was the 33 inches. And I use the countertop as something hard to press against to make the straight seam. So we have this part left over. Okay, move you back over here where you can see. Now, this is still one big block and I want two because I can get 2 aprons from 1 yard of material. So all I do is turn it like this. I know it's crazy, but it's primitive. And then I just cut it right up the middle. So now I'm going to have 2 big squares. Well, no, not squares, rectangles. 16 by 33, approximately. But like I said, it will be gathered and you won't really be able to tell. So here we have the basis for our apron. Here's the basic piece that I'm going to use. And I'm gonna do 3 aprons in stages and film so that you can see what I'm doing. But this will be the body of the apron skirt. And then over here, I know that I kind of measure on myself. So I know that I want it to be, lost my pen. I know that I want it to be about 16. So let's see how much this is. So if it's 16 on one side, that would be 32. So that's a big waist. But with the ties, you can make it as tight as you want it or as loose as you want it. Okay, so 16 is down here. So this is way too big. So I'm just going to scooch it up a little bit so the waistband won't be so big. Okay, are you following along? You too can make an Appalachian apron. You just have to be brave and try and eyeball it. Got my glasses. Cheaters. Okay, so now to get the waistband, I want to be a little bit more. Okay, there you go. I'm just going to cut off this remaining part because we're not going to need it. So we just cut this little end off. I'm going to save the little scraps and make a quilt so they won't go to waste. I haven't ever done one on the sewing machine. I'm trying to do one by hand, but we'll see how that works out. So I know I want the waistband about 3 inches. So I just eyeball it. Like I said, it's primitive. I eyeball and I just cut right down through here. I want the waistband and the ties and the apron to all match. Some of my others, I made them different. Okay, so, and then I take this top and I cut it in half. And there I have 2 waistbands. 2 waistbands. And I'll show you what to do with them later. When I made all of those aprons, I would cut out, spend one day just cutting out. And then I would spend one day just gathering, one day putting on waistbands, one day putting on ties. This remaining part, I will get 4 ties, 2 per apron. So say your material, this material was almost $8 a yard, or around $8 a yard. So you can have 2 aprons for $4 each. But it was on sale, 50% off. So actually, I'm making 2 aprons for $2 and something. But I had to pay full price for all of my other Christmas material. Okay, I want my belts to be a couple of inches wide. So I just eyeball it. I cut down through here. This will be 1 tie. And if it's not exactly perfect, it's okay because it is a craft apron. It's not like a mass-produced. So this will become an apron tie. It's longer because I'm not going to cut it. The waistbands I cut to make them smaller. Okay, now I want 2 more like that. So I fold it like that. Trust me, it works out. I'll show you. I've done all of them this way. So by now, it's easy for me to kind of eyeball it because I've made 30 some. And with each one, I've learned a new technique and a better way to do it. So this will become 2 ties when I get finished. And I'm going to need 1 more, so I hope I got enough material left to do it. May have to have skinny ones. Okay, so to get this to be 2, I have to cut it in half because it's folded over like that. So I have to fold it and cut it to make me have 4. Right now I just have 2. So when I cut it up the middle, so precisely, it will become 4. I know this is crazy, but I will show you the process as it goes along. And it will come out to be a beautiful little apron. They're not to put on show, and we're not charging a fortune for them at the craft show. I gotta have 1 more, so all I'll do is just trim part of this off. We're not trying to make a fortune. We just want to sell some things to buy food when we get to Honduras. We pay our own airfare and our own room and board over there. We go to a church and work with a pastor. And we go up into the mountains and we go to 7, well, last time I went, we went to 7 different villages. And I'm just trimming a little of this off. Okay, so there we have, we pass out food. The people come to church and we teach the children and we pass out food to everybody that comes. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we have cut out, we have, this is an apron body and a waistband and 2 ties. And this is an apron body, a waistband, and 2 ties. Okay, so we will go on with the process. And in the next phase, these are my cheater glasses. The next phase, I will tell you how I gather the skirts and attach the waistbands and how to put it together. Okay, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so we have moved on to phase 2. Here I'm ironing down just the raw edge, making a single turn down. I'll show you up close. Just making 1 little turn down so that when I sew it, it's much easier to hem and I can tell where I am. So I do 3 sides. I don't do the top side that I'm going to gather, but I do the other 3 sides. I've already done 2, and I'm just coming up the edge with my finger and turning it over so that I can hem it. I just turn it over like 1/4 of an inch maybe and iron that down so when I go to the sewing machine, it's going to be easier to hem. Okay, so I've done 3 sides and I won't do the top. I've done the side, all the bottom, which is big, and this side so that it's going to be finished and not have a raw edge. So now we're going to come over to the sewing machine, and I hope to get you over here safely. I iron when I sew because it just makes it so much easier and so much neater when you start. But here's the front of the sewing machine. I can't really, I guess I can turn it. And yes, the thread breaks and then you have to do the bobbin and I have red thread on there now. So I'm gonna take a pause and I gotta change to, I'm gonna make them all navy blue thread. Or this one I may do in white. But I have to change because I have red on here from my last thing. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm glad you can't see behind the scenes because I changed out my thread and my bobbin, and you'll do that according to your sewing machine, however you do it. And I started to sew, and the bobbin popped out of its holder and got a big wad of thread on it, and so I had to stop and straighten all that out. But what I've done is I've taken the part that I ironed, my raw edge, and I've just turned it over one more little lap so that it's all, you know, nice and neat on the inside. I'll show you a little close-up picture. So it's finished and you don't see the raw edges. And I'm gonna do that all the way around the bottom. Not the part I'm gonna gather, but I'm gonna do it the 3 sides that are not gonna be gathered. And the bottom hem is gonna be done exactly the same way. I'll show you when I get it finished. The sewing machine makes a lot of noise. So I'm just gonna sew straight seams down the side, across the bottom, and back up the other side. And then I'll come back and show you the finished product. Okay, I'm coming to the last part of my 3 sides. And I'm coming up to the waistband part, which is not hemmed. It's left plain. So we're gonna finish this last little bit. Okay, and then the next step we're going to is the gathering process. So to do that, I switch my sewing machine to the longest length stitch that I have so that I can pull the thread through it. It won't really be a seam. It'll just be a thread that'll guide me to gather all of this side, the 33-inch side, so that it's face up, the people are facing up, but it'll have just one single seam across there, and I'll show you how I gather. So this makes a lot of noise, so I'll turn it off and I'll come right back and show you what I've done. Okay, we're coming to the edge again, the last little bit. And I will leave 2 extra long strings because these are what's going to gather my material. I just hold on to, I have a top string and a bottom string. And I hold on to one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. The one that's easier, which is not going to be easy. They're stuck together. Okay. Like I said, this is primitive. My mom used to make us all kinds of clothes. We had the most beautiful clothes. She would make us dresses with Dan River. I think it was called Dan River Gingham was a brand. And she would buy beautiful material in all colors and make us dresses. Whatever style that people were wearing, she could copy and make them, usually without a pattern. But if you just pull one string, as you can see, the material will gather. And so these skirts have, aprons have a gathered skirt. That's just how they made them. And that's how I learned to make them. I'm sure there's all kinds of different ways and different YouTube sites that you can go on and learn how to do this. But I just gather the whole thing up. And then for the next step, I go to the ironing board and I will show you the next step process once I've got this whole skirt just gathered. I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, for this step, I have taken the right side of my waistband and pinned it to the right side of my apron because the hem is going to turn over like that and will become the waistband. So you want the right sides of the material facing each other, I think. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. I did that before and had to take the whole thing loose. You want the right side of the apron against the wrong side of the waistband so that when you get it flipped over, you sew it on, then you... No, I was right to start with. Okay, this is primitive. I'm gonna leave this in here. I could edit it out, but I think it's kind of comical. So I'm gonna leave this in here for your enjoyment. to let you know that I am just a crafty sewer, not a professional. You do want it that way because you're going to turn it over this way and hem it, and it's going to look like that. Okay, so I'll pin it on each side where I want it to go and leave a little bit left over to finish it off. And then I'll show you. I even out my gathers so that it comes together and it fits. I want my skirt and the gathers to match up with the waistband so that it will be the proper length. And I put a lot of gathers in because you can always take them out over here on this side when I finish up. So I'll get this all evened out to where it exactly matches the waistband and the gathered part of the skirt will actually match. They'll be the same, the width that I want them. So when I sew it, it'll look finished. And I kind of put a little pin in. I go so far and then I put a pin in to hold it where I want it. This pin cushion I have was made by a good friend of mine, Kay Pennington, years and years and years ago. Probably 45 years ago or something, and I've just kept it. I love it. Makes me think of her when I sew. Sewing is a personal thing, and it has a lot of memories attached to it. For me especially, a lot of memories of my mom, because she was such a great seamstress. And not professional, but just was so good. She made quilts. One day I will show you all my quilts. I have a handmade, everything's hand stitched by my Grandma Davison. So this is turning out pretty good. This material is really nice. It's real crispy and will hold up nice. So we're pinning our waistband and our little gathers together so that when we sew it on, it'll look pretty. Okay? So we're gonna come over here to the sewing machine and start our next process. I do it on the sewing machine because it's an easy place to lay it out flat. Okay, I'm gonna start sewing it. I'm just gonna sew the two right sides together. I'm gonna sew this gathering mess to the waistband, and then I will show you what that looks like when I iron it down. Okay, I'm coming down to the end of the waistband and the gathered skirt, and I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch of the waistband left over so that it has a little bit of material to fold over and make a finished seam. So I'll finish this little bit and then we'll move to the ironing board. Glad you weren't here in the room for when the thread gets bogged down and it doesn't work out right. So at any rate, we're ready to move. And we got a lot of raw, ugly seams, and I'll show you. I trimmed those off so that they still look pretty. Okay, let's go over here, back to the ironing board. We use the ironing board a lot in this process. Okay, so what I've done is, I have I've sewn the waistband onto the skirt, and it's ugly looking in the back, just really, just whopper jawed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron that down. First I'm going to trim off all these bad threads. I try to keep it neat as I go. I just throw them in the floor and then I sweep them up when I'm done. I don't want extra thread hanging out and messing up my skirt. Okay, so we get this ironed down nice and pretty. It's starting to make sense now. It's starting to look like an apron. It could be gathered a little better. I think it makes me kind of nervous talking and doing it at the same time. I haven't done as good a job as I could have on this one. But I press it down where I've sewn the waistband onto the gathered part. It's good to press it as you go because it makes it lay flat and it's easier to sew. Okay? So we press that down. Now that waistband has become a part of the apron. Turn it over. Do the same process. We get rid of as many of these fringy strings as we can. Get them out of the way. This material ravels quite a bit. Some materials do and some don't. This one does. Maybe it has some linen or something in it. And you can use pinking shears, which I started to use a while ago, but I don't know, for some reason I didn't care for it. But I will finish off all of these threads when I get done and get rid of everything. For now, what we're going to do is, okay, we've come over here and we're going to turn this outside hem under and we're going to press it down like I did before. We're just going to go up through here, make a little 1/4 inch fold over so we get rid of the raw edges, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. I don't have my ties made. I'll have to take a break and make my little ties. I don't know if you can see. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm taking this raw edge and I've ironed it down. Now I'm taking this little piece and I'm ironing it over so that it will lay flat like that. My little raw edge on the waistband. I'm going to press it down. Be careful not to burn your fingers. So when I have the tie, I'll show you that part. I'll put the tie in here with it, and this gets pressed down like this. I'm going to move you in closer so you can see. I'm going to iron part of it and then move you in so you can see what I've done. So you can see how it's starting to begin to look like an apron. Just keep ironing this part down till we get to the end. So now it's beginning to look like an apron. It has a little waistband. And it'll be finished on the inside. All the raw, ugly little threads will be hidden. So when I get the sashes or the ties made, I will come back and show you how I put them on. Okay, what I've done is iron a little 1/4, well, I don't even know if it's a 1/4, but turn a little raw edge under on both sides and ironed it. I learned to do this the first probably 28 of the aprons. I sewed this together, the right sides together, and then had to turn it like you do when you make a pillowcase or something like that. Then I discovered that I could iron it down and just sew it on the outside, and it saved me so much time. I'll show you when I get part of this done. I just put those two finished edges together and just iron it right up the middle. And then when I get finished, I'm gonna sew it. Ironing it down helps you to be able to sew it much easier. Like I said, there's probably tons of YouTube pages to teach you how to do this. But this is just how I made it up and how I remembered my mom doing it. So now it is like finished. There's no raw edges. And I'm going to turn the inside part down so its raw edges will be inside. And iron that part together. Then we'll go back to the sewing machine and sew all of this together. So that when we're finished, we have one solid belt with no raw edges. Then I will attach it to the apron. So all I'm going to do is sew a seam right down the side of here, and I'll be back and show you. Okay, so what I have done is I have turned this raw edges like that, the belt, tie, whatever, into this. So I ironed the raw edges in, and then I put them together, made one long seam, and I finished off the end so the raw edges are tucked in. It's just one continuous little seam now. So what I'm going to do is I will put it, okay, I've ironed these raw edges down so that they're going to turn under and hem. I'm going to stick this in here. Oh, you can't see. Okay, so I have put the belt, the little tie. Can you see? I've put the little tie inside this fold, folded it over like that. Put the tie inside and then fold this down over the top of it. and I pin it to hold it in place. I'll show you what it looks like. You want to tuck the tie in so that it stays. So that when we go back and we sew the top on, this little tie will be secure. Like that. And the raw edges will be all tucked in. Okay? So what I'm going to do is sew it all the way across and I put a tie on this end. Then I'll come back and show you the finished product. But this we ironed. We're just going to sew it all the way across on the inside. And our tie will be attached. And I'll be back. Okay, what we're going to do is the final step. There I am. My pink glasses. The final step of getting the waistband attached to the apron. And I haven't decided about a pocket yet. But if I do, I'll put that on there. So this is the last seam. It's attaching the ties and the waistband on the right side. So I already have my tie attached like I showed you on the ironing board. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this under so all the edges are nice and neat. Will be turned under, sewn together, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, we're finished. This is probably the least neat one that I have made. I think I was a nervous wreck sewing and talking. But I have the waistband on, inside and outside. I did it a little bit differently. And it has strings. So I'm going to press it down. And then I will show you what it looks like. Well, I got to remove some strings. I don't like leaving strings on it. It's got a few little old strings hanging on it. But I'll clean them off. And I will hold it up and show you what it looks like. They're not real flattering because they're gathered, number one. But when I get it finished sewing, I like to iron it and press everything down. And it's much easier to sew if you iron as you go. This one I have made in one afternoon, which is totally different. I haven't ever, this is the quickest one I've made to get it finished all in one afternoon. But I wanted to show you. I wanted to get on here and show you what I've been doing. I think this makes number 33, maybe. But it's taken me like a couple of months. I'd work on it for a while. Then I would quit for a while. Then I'd work on it for a while. Then I'd quit for a while. And so, how many people out there still have an ironing board? Or you can comment and ask me questions and I will read them and try to answer them. But like I said, I'm sure there are other professional YouTube sites on there that will help you and give you a little bit more exact if you desire to make one. But this is just something I wanted to do for our craft sale. And I'm going to advertise them as totally Appalachian primitive because they are pretty primitive. But, you know, that's what people had to do back in the day. They had feed sacks or maybe they would get a little material at the local store. We had Butler's grocery store and she sold material. And so the women just kind of had to do whatever they could do in order to make things and have things at home and have fabric for your quilts. And so it's totally an Appalachian tradition to me. And a lot of bibbed aprons are better, you know, or they make them a little fancier or whatever. But these are just your basic little apron that you can put on to protect your dress or whatever you're doing. So anyway, this, my friend, is the finished little product. Let me put you over here and back away so you can see it. I hope that you followed along and I hope that you will like it and I hope that you will share it and have other people subscribe. But this is the effect. The apron, both sides, has little strings. You just put it on and you tie it in the back. And then you go about your day and you can wipe your hands there. Or I may put a pocket. One little girl's in church, Penny, said I should. I did make pockets, but she said make it big so you can have your cell phone. But this is a nice little Christmas with Mary and Joseph and Jesus, which is the reason for Christmas. So while you're making your Christmas ham, you could put it on and have a little Christmas cheer. So I hope that you have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed doing it with you. Like I said, it was a little nerve-wracking, I have to tell you. But we survived. I survived. And I'm glad that I got it on film. And if nobody ever wants to make one, that's fine. But if anybody wants to make one, that's even better. And so I will try to get this all edited together and make it make sense. And I will see you on the next one. And from the holler to the world, maybe I'll take a couple of them to Honduras and share them with the pastor's wives over there. So I will be back with you later and show you my next adventure. Bye. Love y'all.